Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and my craft room, Kathy's Random Acts of Stampin'. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, welcome in. And if you're some of my all-time subscribers and followers, thank you once again for showing up. I appreciate it. I love you. And if you would please leave a comment, it can be anything from whether you love the card or if there was some changes that you think should be made. All comments are welcome, so leave me a comment after the video, after you watch it, and let me know what you think. We're going to call today's video Mixed Up Monday because I'm going to mix up some dies, some stamps. One is a bundle. We're going to work with some different colored cardstocks, and this beautiful poinsettia paper comes from Boughs of Holly, which doesn't coordinate with any of the dies or stamps that I have here today, but I think it's going to be really pretty. I have something like this in mind, but we're going to change it up a little bit. I think I'm going to use a different die to cut this piece. We're going to still stay on the same color palette, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. And I made a mistake of letting this hang over, and of course that's not going to fit in an envelope. But this could be a great card to hand someone, or if you're giving cards out at church or something like that, this would work perfectly for that. I'm also going to use a couple of different packs of gems. I'm using the Iridescent Rhinestone Basic Jewels, and this little pack, and I folded this over because it kind of kept me from seeing the top ones. The red and green adhesive back pearls. Now I don't know why they call it just red and green, because here's your red, your green, but you also have silver and gold. So a very festive set of jewels to use for any of your Christmas cards. So these products can all be found in either the mini catalog that I like to call our Christmas and holiday catalog, or our annual catalog. Now the regular stuff, like our regular cardstock, the basic white thick, the shaded spruce, let's just lay these over here for right now. The shaded spruce, this is an evening evergreen, and this is an old olive. So those are the three colors of green that I chose. And then this is our basic white thick. I like to do my card bases out of those. And this, like I told you earlier, this is the Boughs of Holly, and it is just a beautiful pattern paper, and there's so many different beautiful patterns in that pack. And if you're interested in seeing them, you can check the catalog. The catalogs are all available to view via PDF on my Stamping Up website. And if you're wondering how to get to that, if you look in the top corner of the banner on my YouTube channel, you'll see a little round globe, and it will say website. And if you click on that, that will take you directly to my Stamping Up web page. And if you scroll down about midway the page, you'll see the two catalogs. The two current catalogs are there. You can download those, or you can view them, whatever suits you the best, but they're there for your viewing. And if you are interested in receiving a catalog, reach out to me via my email, and it is listed under this video, and also it's on my blog. So all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with our card. And the first thing that I want to do is bring over our basic white thick, and we're going to cut our card base first. I always like to start out with my card base, and this is going to be a standard A2 size card. So if you're new and you're not sure what an A2 size card is, it is any card that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and if you open it up, it's going to be 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 scored at 4 1/4. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. So I'm going to put this in my trimmer on the 11-inch side, and I'm going to cut it in half, and half of 11 is 5 1/2. So I'm going to line that up at 5 1/2, and I'm going to take my cutting blade. This particular trimmer comes with two blades, a scoring blade and a trimming blade, and I'm just going to slide that. And then we're going to turn it to the 8 1/2-inch side, and we're going to line it up halfway. Half of 8 1/2 would be 4 1/4. So I'm going to put it on the 4 1/4 inch mark. Move that cut blade out of your way, and then we're going to score. And if you don't have this particular trimmer, you can do this in your scoreboard, or you can actually fold it in half and just crease it down really good. That's where our next little tool comes in so handy, and that's our bone folder. So this is a bone folder, and this is such a handy tool to have. So we're just going to fold this over. I like to make sure everything lines up, and then I like to crease everything down nice and tight. And the thicker your cardstock, the harder your crease is going to be. And this is a nice thick, heavyweight cardstock. So, but you can see by scoring that down, scoring it and then burnishing it down, we have a nice closed area. So now the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and cut. I tell you what, let's do this first. Let's cut a mat to go on here out of this beautiful shaded spruce. That's a beautiful Christmas green. To me, I think the shaded spruce just screams Christmas. And for our mat, we're going to need it to be, normally we would do 4, but I want this to be a little bit larger, so I'm going to do it at 4 1/4. I'm sorry, 4 1/8. And I'm going to move that score blade out of my way because I'm cutting now. And then I'm going to turn it this way, and I want to cut it at 5 3/8. Normally it would be 5 1/4, but I want this to have a very slight amount of white to show. So I'm going to go 1 2 3, and I'm lining it up on that 3/8 mark, and I'm just going to trim that off like that. Now hang on to your scraps because we're going to need those for some die cutting in a few minutes. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take and line this up on here, and you can see you have just a very faint tiny border around the edge of that card. But we're going to do something a little bit fun with this, and that's going to take in our basic border dies. These are so much fun to work with. And the other card that I showed you, I used this die. I used this one, and it gave us that little scalloped, almost looks like an envelope. On today's card, I think I'm going to do something a little different, and I think I'm going to do this little V shape, which this too will look like an envelope, but just in a little bit different. And I'm going to bring it down a little bit further down because I'm looking at my card that I made, this one here, and I feel like I needed a little more space up here for my banner, my greenery, and what have you. So I'm going to bring this down to about here, and if you want to try to center that point right in the middle of your cardstock. So I like to take a ruler. This particular ruler is not a Stampin' Up! Product, but it is a ruler that helps me find the center of my paper. So that looks about right there. I'm going to put a little pencil tick mark right here on that 0. And I'll erase that in a few minutes, because what I want to do is I want to make sure that that point, let's make sure I can see that. I want to make sure that that point is lined up pretty well with that little tick mark. So right there. And that looks pretty good. So now that I've got that pretty much where I want, well, you know what, we got to turn it over. So I didn't have it where I wanted it. You're going to need to turn that over to this side, and what you want to do is bring it up to where you think you want it to be cut, and look at this side of your die and that side, and you want about the same amount hanging off. That way it will ensure that you're cutting it fairly even. So I'm going to take these little post-it sticker or post-it note flag stickers and just put that down so that I can ensure that my die is not going to move. And I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and we're going to die cut this. This is going to give us a really cute little stitched angle cut on the front of this card. And again, this is our mat, one of our mats. We're going to have two mats on here. This one along with our designer series paper, which is what's going to lend itself to that beautiful two-tone front part of our card. So I'm just going to go ahead and crank this through. Cranks through like butter. And let's go ahead and close this. I wish I could keep this up here all the time, but it's a good sized little machine, even folded. And my desk is full between my computer over here and card bases and stuff and supplies in front of me. I like to have everything pretty much at fingertip reach when I need it. So my die cut machine sits right here on the floor beside me, and it makes it fairly easy for me to reach it. So I'm going to take my little post-it note flags off. And see how cute that is? Now I'm going to save this piece because we might be able to use this on another card. We have the stitching on both sides, which makes it nice. So that piece could very easily be used for another card. Alright, so I'm going to brush this off, make sure it hadn't picked up any little lint from here, because these little cutting plates do pick up, and mine are just about ready to be replaced. You can see, but I also want you to see, look how straight my plates are. And if anyone would like to know, I have a video showing how to keep your plates from warping. And it is as simple as flipping your plates. The bottom plate, which is the plate you cut into all the time, you want to flip it only when it starts to spring from the top. See how that's kind of springy right there? If you push down and it springs back up, that's when you want to flip it to that side. And then you want to use this side until this side springs up. The top plate, you want to flip it every time you use it. Flip it over, flip it up, flip it down and around. So just make sure you're moving this plate every time, and your plates will last you. They will not warp on you. You won't have that bowing of your plates. Okay. Let's bring back over our card base and our pretty piece of shaded spruce cardstock, and that's going to go on about like that. But you can see we're going to need to put our designer series paper down first in order for this to work out. And I've got this little piece right here, and I think this will work. So all I'm going to do with this piece is I'm going to cut it off to 5 3/8 because I think my width is pretty good, and I'll measure this to let you know what the width is. It is actually 2 3/4. So 2 3/4 by 5 3/8. So bring it to your 5 and then count over 1/8, 2/8, and 3/8. And then just slice that off. And this should give us exactly what we need for the bottom portion of our card. And the best way to do that is to go ahead and adhere this down first. And you can do that with liquid glue. You can use your Stampin' Seal, two-sided tape, whatever your preference of adhesive would be. But you want something strong that's going to hold your card together. This is the beginning of our card. So let's go ahead and put this piece down, and I'm going to use some liquid glue. I love liquid glue because it gives me a little wiggle room. So when you put it down, you have a few seconds, just a very few seconds, to make sure you get it right in the area that you want it. So I'm going to bring it over, and I know that it's a very small border because it's only like 1/8. So then just press that down just like that. And now we're going to do the same thing with this one, and we're just going to line it up from side to side and from top to bottom and let this land where it will. So on this piece, I'm going to run glue around all the edges. This is important because you don't want your edges to lift up. And then I'm just going to put a small amount of glue. This stuff is very strong, so you don't want to overdo it. because it is a wet glue and you don't want to warp your paper. But then just press that into place. And that part of our card is already done. So now we're going to do some die cutting and some stamping. So I'm going to take the last one. I did mostly die cuts on it. If you notice that I did a lot of die cuts with these, I didn't do any stamping. This time I think I want to do stamping instead. So I have a real red, a cherry cobbler. I think I'm going to stick with the real red, and of course my shaded spruce. I might bring in another green. Let's pull in, I want a lighter green, so I think I'm going to get Old Olive. That's lighter, but not, it still has a muted look to it, so I think it'll play well with the shaded spruce. So let's go ahead and pull out a piece of that thick Whisper, basic white. There are still times I want to call it Whisper White because that was the name of our white for so long, but this is basic white thick. And what I want to do with this is I want to stamp some images on here that I can die cut. So I'm going to pull the stamp set over, and it is the Christmas Banner stamp set and the Christmas Banner dies. And so that y'all will know this, and I don't know that any of y'all know this yet, Stampin' Up! Has made an announcement that they are going to do their best going forth to name their stamp sets and die sets the same, so that we don't have to search and hunt. I always did this. I put the name of the die on the back of the stamp and the name of the stamp on the back of the die. So if they didn't coordinate, I could very easily find, I mean, if they were not the same names, I could find the coordinating stamp or die set easily by looking on the back of whichever piece I had in my hand. And that way, and I keep everything alphabetized, so it made it really easy for me to find them. And I had to come up with that little system all by myself because I found it so confusing when I first started with Stampin' Up. And I was thinking then, why can't the dies be the same name as the stamps? It would just make life so much simpler for everybody. But I think they may have heard us and decided to do that. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to grab these two little holly leaves, and I'm going to put these on tiny blocks, something like this. And the reason we have two is so that one can go one way and one the other, because when you're dealing with holly leaves, you definitely want your leaves to kind of go in, you know, right to left, and not both of them looking like they're going to the left. So Stampin' Up! Is very conscious of that sort of thing, and we have those. So I'm going to use my shaded spruce, and I just re-ink this, so I'm hoping it's not going to be too juicy. I had to re-ink 2 or 3 of my ink pads because they were getting a little bit on the dry side. Oh, that's pretty. And I'm going to do 2 of each. And I'm going to grab my Stampin' Scrub. I don't like to take my stamps off of the block until I clean them, because they're so much easier to clean if they are on the stamp block. So I'm just going to use my Stampin' Scrub, and I already have some cleaner on this. The good thing about the Stampin' Scrub is you can reactivate your cleaner with just a squirt of water, which I find that always so helpful. Now I can take this one off and put him back here, and we can take this little leaf, load it up, and let's stamp it here. Oh, it's stamping so much better since I re-inked. So now we've got our 2 leaves, and look what I did. I'm always putting my fingers in my ink pads, but I know none of y'all do that. That's just something that I do, I'm sure. Oh my goodness, we all get our fingers in our inks, I'm sure. So I'm going to actually clean up the edge of my ink pad just a tiny bit. I've got an alcohol wipe here, and I'm just going to use it to go around my edge right here and right down here. Sometimes when you re-ink these, they can get a little bit, just a tiny bit messy, but see what I'm doing? I'm just running this right along there just to clean that up a little bit. And right there. And let's close that one back up. Now I'm going to grab my little holly berries. I'm going to stamp these twice. And let me grab, let's do this first. These little tiny stamps, I so would rather put them back where they belong right after I use them than take a chance of losing them. If you have ever lost a stamp out of a stamp set, then you totally get it. And I have, and it's just one of the most discouraging things ever. Now I re-inked this one as well, so this is going to be juicy. So I'm going to stamp these. I'm going to lay those dies right there. I'm going to stamp these over here. Now what I'm trying to do is give myself enough of room to be able to die cut these. That's why I'm putting some space between them. So those are beautiful. I love the way it put the little highlight on them. I don't know if you can see that, but let me bring it up. See the little highlight where it's white? And that white space gives you that look of light shining on those holly berries, and that is so pretty. All right, so let's clean these up. Now, anytime you use a red ink, because of the pigment, it's going to stain your stamp a little bit. You can see there's a little bit of staining. You probably can't see it against my skin, but you can see it against the white paper. It's clean, it's just stained, and it's not going to hurt a thing. It just means that you have put some ink on there that has a high pigmentation, and they don't always clean off as good as some of the other ones. Now the question is going to be, do we want to use this banner die, or do we want to use the one we used before? I think I'm going to use this one, and the reason I say that is because I think we have enough room on this particular card to accommodate this. And if you wonder, just bring your card over and lay your stamp on it, and then you can see that there is plenty of room to be able to add this piece onto the front of this card. So I want to stamp this one in red, and the reason I want to do it in red, it's going to turn out red and white. I am going to grab my Stamparatus for this one because you have some solid images on this one, and whenever you have a solid image on a photopolymer stamp, especially, not necessarily always, but most of the time, you're going to need to stamp it more than once. So my Stamparatus allows me to do that very easily, because we have, we can place our paper in here, put our magnets down. This isn't going to move. Now we can put our piece where we want it to stamp at, and I want it to stamp right about there, and then pick it up, and we can ink this, and I'm going to ink it with the red. And let's go ahead and ink that up really good. Give it a good press. I have this little nifty tool that allows me to get nice even pressure on my stamps, and this is just it's a wonderful tool to use with any stamp positioning system, and it just really does help. And see, we do need a little bit more ink on that, and that's why I wanted to grab the Stamparatus for this. So if you don't have a Stamparatus, I urge you to invest in one. It will be one of the best investments you ever made, especially if you like to stamp nice bold stamps like this one. Now I've got a feeling that twice on this one is going to be plenty. Oh, it's so rich and beautiful. That turned out gorgeous. And I really think re-inking my ink pads made a big difference too. Now, before I take this out, I'm going to turn it this way. And I'm going to put a magnet here and a magnet right here, because I want to stamp one other thing in there. And before I do that, I'm just going to grab a chamois and clean this off a little bit. We've got several greetings then that we can put in this spanner. And I'm thinking I may want to just stick with the Merry Christmas like I did before. And you can stamp it in green, you can stamp it in red, you can stamp it in black. You can pull up any of the other colors that you would like. I'm thinking I'm going to go with the shaded spruce because we're going to do greenery around it, and I would love to pull in some greens. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my stamp set. Let's pull this one off. It's nice and clean. Stained but clean. See how nice and stained that one is? And of course, so are my fingers. I'm red and green everywhere. I'm just going to lay this back in here like so. And I think what I want to do is get the Mary. And what we can do is we can sit that in right where we want it, just like that. And the same with Christmas. I really like my Christmas cards to say Merry Christmas, not season's greetings. Sometimes I'll do something like joy, or you know, the reason for the season, or something like that, but I really like Merry Christmas for Christmas. So I'm going to pick that up, and then I'm going to grab that shaded spruce again. Oops, did I get that right? Yeah, it looked like it was at an angle because it is, because this piece is at an angle. So I'm just going to, am I out of frame? I'm sure I am. Let me see if I can pull this all over so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. There's my stamps right there. And here's my piece over here. I'm going to ink it and then I'll pull it back over. If I come up any further than what I am, you will not be able to see what I'm doing. So I don't want to zoom out any further. So I'm going to ink that and then pull it back over to here. And I'm going to close that down and give it a good press. Let me go ahead and close up this red ink pad. I think we're done with it. I'm going to give that a good little press again. Let's do our little thingamajig. It's called an impressionable, I believe, is the correct name for those. But oh my goodness, look how pretty that is. Oh, I love it. All right, I think everything else that I'm going to use on here is going to be die cuts. I think. I'm not going. Don't hold me to that just yet. Maybe not. Let's bring this back in here because we're going to be doing a lot of die cutting. We might as well get as much on this one piece as we can. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do a couple of these little stems. This is what our holly berries actually will die cut out, and we can actually glue them onto that little stem, which is fantastic. So I'm going to put this down, and maybe this little piece right there. Maybe like this. And how about this one and this one? Let's see if we can tighten them up a little bit better. Now remember, we've got to have room to die cut. So I'll pull that over, pull that up, over, and that down. Yeah, I think that'll work really good. So, oh, let's get our little Merry Christmas off of here. Now this is the Stampin' Chamois. What I did is I have one that I bought and I just cut it up into smaller pieces, and these work out great for cleaning little stamps off of your Stamparatus. So I'm going to lay those back over here for right this minute, and let's go ahead and pick up these stamps. And I think all of these I'm going to go ahead and ink them up in, yeah, let's just do all these in the Shaded Spruce. What I'm doing is I'm just putting pressure on each piece. Oh, they're gorgeous. If your ink pads start to fade on you or you're not getting a good impression, please do not be alarmed. Get yourself a re-inker, and I promise you will be thrilled with the way they turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these off. You might get a little smearing of ink on your the door, the window of your Stamparatus, but it'll wipe right off. Our classic Stampin' pads is a water-based ink, so they clean up with soap and water. So you never have to worry. Even this on my hands, that will come right off. It's not like the solvent ink of Stays On, or even the pigment ink. Some ink pads are pigment, and you will run into all kinds of problems with those. I'm going to move this out to here, and I'm going to try stamping these maybe not quite that far. Okay, one's going to need to move, maybe right here. Yep, I think that'll work. Oh, I still had some ink residue right there. That's okay, we're going to still go with it. And this time I'm going to grab the Old Olive, because this may cover it up and it may not even show. Now, I did not re-ink my Old Olive, so we'll see if this one's going to give us as good of a image. We might have to do this one twice. Yeah, I see we got a little bit of fading on this one, so I probably need to set this one to the side and as a reminder to re-ink it as well. But sometimes, you know, you just need to go back in and do it again. Oh yeah, that's much better. Now remember, when these dry, they're going to dry a little lighter. Look how much lighter that the Shaded Spruce dried. So when you first stamp them, don't think they're going to be that color. As they dry, they will lighten. All right, let's get our other little stamp cleaner and clean this off really good. The chamois makes a little bit of a squeaky noise. Sometimes my dog thinks it's a squeaky toy. Sometimes my husband thinks it's one of the dogs with the squeaky toy, but it's not. It's just me and my Simply Chamois. So I'm going to take and put these back in. So again, like I said, you want to try to keep up with these small stamps, and I think it's better to put them back in as you use them than it is to take a chance of losing them, especially little ones like as tiny as these words are. Just make sure you stick them back in where they belong, because the last thing you want to do is lose them. So let's get that put away, and now we are ready to do some die cutting. Oh, make sure you keep your magnets far apart. I'm very fortunate that those didn't snap just now, because this is my second set. My first set did snap, and I used them until they finally fell apart, and I was forced to have to buy another set. But Thank goodness they didn't snap just now. It might be because I've got some tape on them. I've got some washi tape and some packaging tape. And all that does, it helps me be able to pull them up because sometimes it's hard to get them up without breaking a fingernail. So just a little information there. So, and there is a place to park them on the back of your Stamparatus. So there's a place here and a place here, which keeps them far away from each other and keeps their own little compartment back there. All right, let's bring up our little, oh, my hands are just so inky. I'm gonna grab a wipe and see if I can clean this ink off of my fingers just a little bit. And what we're going to do now is, let's go ahead and see if we can tape down as many of our dies as we can on this piece. So we've got our little holly berry die that will go right here. And if y'all heard something, it was my husband. He's taking my dogs out for me. So, all right, that's one. Here's another one that can go right here. So I'm trying to get these down where they're fully covered. No white showing around my edges. That's what you want to look for. And I'm going to pull that down this way. And then I'm going to take one of the holly dies. Let's see, which one is this one? This one goes this way. So this one goes this way. Okay, very good. And I've got bukus of these because I've got a lot of them over here that have already been pulled off. So I'm just going to put these down onto my pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this bigger piece. And this one can be a little bit persnickety to get lined up, but it will line. Let's see. I have to check and see, make sure which way it goes. I think it's that way. Yep. So once you get it, then just basically hold it with one hand and glue it down, or stick it down with the other one. And one like this, you definitely want to do it on both sides. And let's see, the rest of my dies are over here. So we have this little piece. Nope, that's not it. This is it. Well, let's do this one. Okay, and stick that down just like that. And then this one. And that one can go right here. And I think we're ready to go ahead and run this through our die cut machine. And when we come back, we'll do the rest of them, and we'll have this card just about ready to put together. So I'll be right back. Okay, I got all of my pieces cut out, as you can see, and I think I made pretty good use out of this 1/2 sheet of paper because I got all of these die cuts out of that. And now these are ready for us to build a collage of greenery and our little holly berries and what have you. So I have 2 of those, and I did 2 sets of my holly berries, and as you can see, some of them are upside down. Some of them cut a little wonky, but you know what? I don't think it's going to matter once we put this on the actual card. So we're not going to fret about it. We are going to go ahead and start building these pieces the way we want them to look. So, you know, if you've got a piece that's way off like this one, and you can trim it. It's no big deal. Just come in with your paper snips and snip off just a tiny bit of that, and it will make it look perfect. So just like that, and then you don't have all that excess white showing around that edge. Now I'm not going to do that for all the pieces because, like I said, I don't think it's necessary. Let's go ahead and see how we want to build this. So I'm going to bring my card back over because I know this is going to be my focal point, this little piece right here. Let me zoom y'all in just a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this away because I don't think I'm going to need that anymore. But there is our focal point on our card. And what I want to do is I want to build up a nice little collage of greenery around this. So I'm going to start out with just laying it out like this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, in the realm of floral designing, you don't want everything to look totally symmetric because it doesn't look natural. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some liquid glue and my silicone craft sheet, and let's go ahead and see if we can start building. I'm going to start off with these and our holly berries. So I'm going to need my take your pick tool, and I'm going to use the little putty end. And what I'm going to do is just put a dab of glue on the edge of each of these little stems. Now this sounds very tedious, and yes, it can be. It's also fun. So then just stick your holly berries there. Try not to get your finger in the glue like I just did. But these will stick on really, really easy. Once you get them all on, you can press them down. The main thing we want to do is just make sure that they're on the stem. And you can see that once you put the holly berries on, it takes on a whole different light. Maybe a little bit more glue on that one. I think I might have knocked a little bit of that glue off and it did not adhere. That's okay. We'll just put a little bit more on there. And that one is done. Then we'll work on this one. And if you feel like it's easier to do the dot of glue and then put your piece on, by all means you can do it either or. I'm just going to go ahead and put a little dab of glue all the way around, and then just go ahead and build this up. And there's our second little group of holly berries. Now I know that I want a couple of these leaves. It's our little holly berry, our little holly leaves. So let's see if we can just make sure these are adhered good. That looks real good. So I want to put a holly leaf here. So I'm going to take a little bit of glue and put on the back of this. And then I'm just going to build that leaf right there. And press it down. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this other leaf. That one's going to go right there. Look how pretty that is. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to take the leaves and just attach them to the stem right here. So one right there. And you're probably going to get gluey fingers from doing this, but it's so worth it once you see the finished product and how pretty everything comes together. Okay, that's together. So we can now bring our card back over to the center front, and we can decide where we want these. Now remember, we do not want to go over the edge. I'm going to put one up there and one down here. I think that's going to look really pretty like that. So I'm going to lift this up, and then I think I'm going to put one of these right here. And you know, I think what I want to do first, I think this one's going to go over here. Let's push everything to the side like that. And I'm going to run dimensionals right down the middle of here. I'm not going to put them out on the outer edges. And the reason for that is I want this raised up where I can stick the greenery under the edges. So I'm going to grab my Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm just going to run 3 right straight up the middle. Just like that. And now we can go ahead and center this right where we want it. And I think right about there looks good. Then I'm going to go ahead and press that down. Now we have that raised edge around here where we can build this up just like we want it. So maybe I'm going to do the holly here and here. You know, actually it looks so cute with just the holly leaves on it. I'll tell you what, let's see if maybe we want to do a little less. I like the way that looks without using these other pieces. I think that's very attractive like that. We have our greeting, we have some greenery around the edges. I think this is perfect. So what I'm going to do is just take a little glue and put on the back of this. And I'm going to go up underneath there like that and stick it down. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this, but I don't want to hide very much of this. So I'm just putting a tiny little bit of glue right there because I want this just to barely be under the edge of that. Something like that. And then the same thing with this. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of glue on the stem and let that come out right about there. And we're going to put glue on the very end of this. And we're going to stick that right about there. That's so pretty. Isn't that just absolutely gorgeous? And I think to play up a little bit on the red, I'm going to grab a piece of real red. Get my pen back in my glue. A piece of real red, and let's see if I have a scrap that we can use. It's a beautiful, beautiful real red. I love this color. It's one of my favorite reds in the Stampin' Up! Color collection. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and grab my trimmer, and I'm going to cut this at 4 by 5 1/4. So 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then we're going to need a piece of white. I think this piece of white we can make it work. Just need to take off about 1/4 inch of this. And you can make your mats inside any size that you want. If you want a smaller mat, you can do that. If you want a larger mat, totally up to you. So let's look at our, I'm going to look at some Christmas greetings. Alright, our very best occasions. We have this one with a little more sparkle and a little less stress. Let's make this Christmas the very best. I love that one. And this is the very best occasions. And this one has some happy birthdays and some thinking of you and things like that. But there's a couple in here. May you enjoy the warmth of family this season. May your days be happy, your heart be light, your Christmas be merry, and the new year bright. That one's cute. But I think I'm going to use this one because it's got the little holly berries on it. So here we go with our little mix-up again. Our Monday mix-up. And it's this one right here. And I think for the inside, I'm going to stamp it in the shaded spruce. So I'm going to put that, let's lay our red mat over here, and we're going to do it up to the top just a tiny bit. You want to leave room for your being able to sign your card. So let's see if we can straighten that up a little bit. That looks fairly good. I'm going to need another stamp block. And let me see if I can get in frame so y'all can see what I'm doing. Okay, it's so funny because when I zoom in, I have a whole different area of my desk that I need to have in the view of the camera. So normally I'm down here, which is right here, and then when I do this, I need to, when I zoom in like I am now, I need this to be up a little bit. So I have to be conscious of that. And sometimes I'm not, and I do apologize. But I do my best. I try to look up ever so often to make sure that I am in frame. So right about here. When you stamp, try not to rock your stamps. Stamp straight down and straight up, and usually you'll get a very beautiful impression, and you won't get that halo effect, because when you rock your stamp, you have a tendency of lifting it and putting it back down, and many times we don't put it right back down where it should be. So when you stamp straight down and back up, and that should give you a really good impression. So let's go ahead and close up this little ink pad. And just because I can, I'm going to take my real red Stampin' Blend, and this is my dark real red. Yep. And I am going to, y'all know when I color, I would like to put on my little bifocal readers, because I want to make sure. I'm just going to touch these little holly berries. Just barely touch them. And that's all I'm going to do. And that way we get that little bit of color on those holly berries. And now we can bring this piece back over. And I'm going to use liquid glue. Now your alcohol markers, our Stampin' Blends, are going to bleed through. Just that teeny little bit that I did, I got a little bleed through. But it's not going to show because it's going to be attached to another piece of cardstock. So I'm going to... Yes, and they bleed through even the thick with basic white. So let's get that on there and press it. And now we can put this inside of our card. give that a little press. And look how beautiful this little card came out. Yeah, we did a little extra work to, you know, make this come to life like this. But I always say that, I always say I can't ever find my pen to put back in my glue. I am sure y'all understand exactly what I'm talking about, because I know if you use a glue with a pen, oh, it's right there in front of me. Goodness gracious. Y'all are probably screaming, saying, it's right there, it's right there. Anyway, this is our cute little card. I do want to put some gems on it. And I think for this one, I am going to grab my, where are they? Here we go. These are the red rhinestones, and they are gorgeous. Look how pretty those are. And I'm going to switch my, I'm going to flip the switch on my take your pick tool, and I'm going to use this little spatula, and I'm going to come up under, and I'm just going to put one here, and maybe one right here, and I think I'll put another one right about there. And those are my 3 gems that I'm going to put on the front of this card. Now, if you wanted to, you could tie a ribbon. I tried playing with ribbons with the other one. I've got a little piece here. Let's see if we do a little bunny ear bow. If this can be something we could put. I do like bows on my cards. I think they add so much to our cards. So I'm just doing the 2 little bunny ears. These usually make nice little simple bows. Cross it over and bring it under, and then pull it. These usually make really cute little bows that are very, very simple. So if you struggle with making a bow, I would suggest to start out making the bunny ear bow. So then you can cut your tails. And you can attach your bow right about there. And I think I like that. So I'm going to take a glue dot, my favorite way to put down my bows. And I am going to pick up a glue dot on the back of that, and I'm just going to put my bow right where I want it and give it a press. And now my bow is attached. And our card is done. How stinking adorable is this? I love the way it turned out. I'll have all of the measurements and all the pieces that I used listed on my blog. So if you look under this video where it says show more, you will find a list of links. There'll be a link there that will take you to my online store, where if you, any of the products that you saw me use, if you wanted to purchase those, you can go directly to my website and buy them straight from there. You can also click on my blog, and you'll have pictures of the cards. You will see a little description. You'll have the PDF tutorial that you can click on, and it will be a clickable link that you can open up, and you can save it to your computer, your tablet, laptop, phone, whatever medium you use for your viewing, and you can save it, or you can print it, or you can do both. So with all that being said, if you like anything that you saw on this today, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. That really helps YouTube know that people are watching my video and they like what they see, and that helps so much in YouTube pushing my video out for other people to see it, and that's always a good thing. Okay, so I think I got everything covered. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please, please, please do so. I am trying very diligently to grow my channel, and I have a very special gift to give away once I reach 5,000 subscribers. So we are heading toward 3,000 now, and a couple more thousand and we'll be there. So help me grow my channel. If you do not have a demonstrator, a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to help you with all your stamping needs, and the opportunity to earn your business means the world. So God bless, God keep you, and as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is worthy. Until we craft again, bye-bye.